The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Harrogate, everybody. Now, what would you say is a good indication that you're well into the countryside, well away from any big towns or cities? Well, I think one of the ways to tell is if you see one of these things across your path. A gate. Lots of private land out here. Now, this gate is not the entrance to a private track. You can drive down here, and I'm about to. I need to, because this is the way to get into today's village. As long as I shut the gate behind me, I think I'm going to be okay. I think gates are a easy way to tell that you're definitely in the countryside. If I open that one and drive through, I'm heading for the parish of Lindley. Lindley, Lime Tree Clearing. Today in Harrogate we're in the fourth and final Lee village in this run. The last one tomorrow, although wood related with its name, doesn't have Lee at the end of it. This is Lindley, about a mile north of Otley and within the ancient forest of Knaresborough. This one, of all the Lee villages we've covered this week, was the hardest one to piece together. Lindley is a very scattered parish, despite the fact there is a discernible main village cluster close to the impressive Lindley Wood Reservoir. In 2001, the parish had a population of 52, and in 2015, estimates put that number still at around 50. So yeah, it's a small one. It was formerly a township in Otley Parish until it became its own thing in 1866. The name Lindley occurs at least 4 times in the Old West Riding of Yorkshire. These instances are at Old Lindley and Nether Lindley between Elland and Huddersfield, Lindley near Headingley, and here in the ancient parish of Otley. It was this tiny place in the Washburn Valley that gave rise to the Lindley surname found all across the world. The Lindley family were the owners of a hall here, a building that was also related to the Palms at Naburn near York. The Lindleys married into various arms-bearing families, and their stature was quite important. We'll learn a bit about the hall and the family during this episode, and once again we'll see the massive reservoir which takes its name from the village too, this time the other end. There's not much walking here, instead there's a heck of a lot of driving, so start your engine people, let's get moving. Oh, and watch those sheep. To enter Lindley village from the west you have 2 options. Firstly, you can skirt around the edge of Lindley Wood Reservoir from the south, or from the north, you can use this road, which is a lot harder. Be prepared to get out of your car a few times to open a few gates. Another hazard you might encounter doing this would be sheep. Well, this is a farming area, and they don't always move out of the way either. I didn't think the sheep were going to get out of the way, to be honest with you. They're very reluctant to move, weren't they? Right, we've got another gate here. This is the 3rd one I've encountered so far on my way towards Lindley. The village itself is over there in the distance somewhere. But I tell you what, it's worth just staying here just for a second, because you get this brilliant view. Look at this. That's where we've come from. It's very windy up here, by the way. That's where we've come from. And that is where we're going. Okay, we've made it to Lindley Village through all of those gates. There weren't any more after that last one I showed you. And yeah, we're here. Difficult finding a parking space in this place, let me tell you. The roads are all really very narrow, and of course tractors and things come up these all the time. So finding a parking space that's ideal is a good idea, because you don't really want to be blocking agricultural machinery. Luckily for me, here on this bend, I wouldn't call it a parking space per se, but I would say it's good enough. At least I'm off the road and no one's gonna hit me with a tractor. At least I hope not anyway. Not gonna be here all that long anyway, because Lindley is a very, very small village. Let's get to it. This is Lindley Village, although terming this place a village is a bit of a stretch. This tiny hamlet lies in the Washburn Valley and it has a very small number of dwellings. You could probably count them all on the fingers of two hands. There are just 50 or so people living within Lindley Parish, a tiny number for a piece of land that stretches quite a distance north to south. The name Lindley comes from the Old English text lind, meaning lime tree, and ley, meaning clearing. The alternative meaning is keeper of the wood, but that's a lot less likely to be correct. Names are important in history though, and in Lindley's case the village gave its name to the local landowning family. The Lindley family took their name from this very hamlet. They were certainly a big land and property owning family in Yorkshire, but they also had some land in Nottinghamshire and Kent. This is clear from various wills which mention those places. They married into many arms-bearing families, as can be observed from various pedigrees. As well as this tiny hamlet near Otley, the Lindley name can also be traced back to Cheshire. It first appears in a document dated 937 AD, written by the Archbishop of York after the Battle of Brunanburg. It's believed at that battle the Lindley crest was given by King Athelstan. Lindley appears again in 1066 AD at the Battle of Hastings before the Norman conquest. The first specific Lindleys to appear in writing were Thomas de Lindley in 1204 and his son William in 1292. William became Lord of Farnley in about 1230. This marked the family's rise to prominence throughout the Middle Ages, and soon they were one of the most important families in Yorkshire. The Lindleys continued as lords of the manor of Leithley until 1524. Throughout their period of Yorkshire dominance, the Lindleys lived at and owned several properties. One of them was Lindley Hall, in this hamlet itself. Through Lindley Hall, the family was connected to another major land-owning group in Yorkshire, the Palms of Naburn. That episode is linked in today's end screen. They were connected thanks to Brian Palms. Brian was the nephew of Naburn Hall's owner in the 1500s and was married to Isabel, the daughter and co-heir of Thomas Lindley. Their son, Sir Francis, acquired the lordship of Lindley and established the family at Lindley Hall, renouncing his Catholic faith to become a Protestant. Most influential people of this period had some connection with the military, such as lords of the manor, who, because of the land and property they owned, were expected to provide men and arms in support of the king. Thomas's will of 1524 shows that both of his daughters married into arms-bearing families, Isabel into the Palms family and Elizabeth into the Everingham family. Brian Palms only lived for 3 more years after marrying Isabel, leaving his son Francis to continue the Palms line at Lindley. The Lindleys had connections to several other buildings across Yorkshire, such as Middleham Castle, Fountains Abbey and Bolling Hall near Bradford. In 1681, Francis Lindley was the first registrar of the West Riding and owner of Bolling Hall. He was married to Carolina Finch and later became the Sheriff of Lancaster. Okay, so we've practically made it all the way through Lindley Village. Told you, it's really, really small. But everywhere you walk here, you will get a brilliant view into the countryside. And all the time, you're heading downhill because you're heading into the valley of the River Washburn. Now, yesterday, of course, we saw Lindley Wood Reservoir, which is on the boundary between Lindley and... where were we yesterday? Farnley. Yes, indeed, Farnley. We're about to see it again. I'm going to head back to the car and we're going to drive down further into the valley. We need to talk a bit about Lindley Bridge. Information about the modern village, or hamlet if you will, is pretty scant. To define Lindley as a village is really pushing it, but the stature of the family and the prominence of Lindley Hall means that part of the place's history is well worth exploring further. Being honest, there's not much more you can really say about the place as a settlement. It's a few houses, a tithe barn and the hall, and that's really that. Mind you, Lindley Wood Reservoir and the River Washburn do give us a little more to learn about here. Let's finish up with those. This is Lindley Bridge, which crosses the River Washburn south of the village. It's located at the point where Lindley Wood Reservoir becomes a river again. A bridge of some description has crossed the Washburn here for centuries. The one here today was built in 1808 and was last restored in 2008. Records show that the bridge that stood here in 1767 was washed away by a flood. It was replaced a year later by one with high arches constructed by John and Samuel Lister of Bramley and John Robinson of Horsforth. It cost £340, which included the old materials. The current bridge is Grade 2 listed. It was depicted in a watercolour by J.M.W. Turner for Walter Fawkes of Farnley in 1824. Let's have a look at the River Washburn too while we're here. It originates high in the Yorkshire Dales and ends where it meets the River Wharfe. It lies within the Nidderdale area of outstanding natural beauty. The earliest recorded form of the river's name was Walksburn from the early 12th century. The name is thought to come from an Old English personal name, and it supposedly means stream of a man named Walk. The river's source is at Washburn Head, just south of Stump Cross Caverns. From there it flows southwards via Thrushcross Reservoir, Blubberhouses, Fewston Reservoir, Swinsty Reservoir, and of course Lindley Wood Reservoir. Now, one final thing I think is worth a mention here at Lindley Bridge is the fact that if you ever find yourself driving along this road and over the River Washburn, you may encounter a little furry friend who likes to sit in the middle of the road, so don't go too quickly. He kind of caught me off guard, to be honest with you. There he is. I reckon this dog lives in this house here, just to the left, where the blue car is. He's going to come and say hello, look. He's coming to say hello to us now. He's been minding his own business in the sunshine there while I've been filming the bridge. He's been watching me, haven't you? Hello. What might your name be? You know you're on camera, don't you? You're going to be famous. You're going to be on YouTube. Are you friendly? Yeah, of course you are. Wagging your tail there. Living the dream, aren't you? We'll be seeing the River Washburn a few more times as we venture north through Yorkshire, but for now we must leave it behind. Tomorrow we're off into another wood-themed area, although this time it's more about the hills around here than it is the water features. See you tomorrow for the last in this Harrogate run. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.